Are you washed in the blood? Are you washed in the blood? In the soul cleansing blood? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Hallelujah. Continue to worship the Lord. Continue to worship the Lord. Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb this morning? Indeed. Hallelujah. Is a question indeed that has been asked if we are washed in the blood of the Lamb. Bless the name of Jesus. Hallelujah. We have a birthday announcement. Bless the name of Jesus. Tomorrow, Sister Lenore is celebrating her birthday. Hallelujah. We give God thanks for her. Indeed, another milestone. Bless the name of Jesus. Many don't have that opportunity. Oh, so God thanks for the when comes. Bless the name of Jesus.
Birthday, you're so young. Age is just having fun. This is your day, your day. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. We're gonna love you in any way. This is your day, your day. Happy birthday to you. This is your day, your day. Happy birthday to you.
God bless you, Sister Richards, and his strength to keep and indeed time eyes collected. Usher, offering.
Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship, one accord. Every praise is to our God. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship in one accord. Every praise is to our God. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory, hallelujah, is to our healer, redeemer. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Healer, believer. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Every praise to walk on. Every word of worship in one accord. Every praise to walk on. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory, hallelujah to our God. Every praise is to our God. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship in one accord. Every praise is to our God. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory, hallelujah to our God. Every praise, every praise, every praise, every
Hallelujah. Bless the name of Jesus. At this time, we're just going to meet and greet, everyone. And right after, we'll be hearing the voice of Judah. Bless the name of Jesus. Every praise.
Sing hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Every praise is to our God. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Every praise to our God. Oh, every word of worship. Oh, every praise our God. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory, hallelujah to our God. Every praise. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory, hallelujah to our God. Every praise. Every praise to our God. Every word of worship, one accord. Every praise, every praise, every praise, every praise, every praise, every praise, every praise is to our God. Bless the Lord. Praise the Lord. Indeed, every praise is to our God, and every word of worship should be on one accord. Amen. Bless the Lord. At this time, I'm going to ask Judah just to come at this time to minister to us in song. Bless the Lord. was leading me, so I wouldn't let go. But Jesus came and got me. He held me mercy to me. Almost faithful. I was right up the end of a breakthrough I couldn't see. The devil really had me, but Jesus came and grabbed me. He held me close, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let go. Oh, let go. Until I can't take life anymore. My problems, depression weigh me down. God held me close, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let
Because God's kept me.
He kept me. Kept me. Mercy kept me. So I let go. I let go.
Continue to worship the Lord. Continue to worship the Lord. God's mercy kept us. Hallelujah. That time where indeed the word will be coming to our heart as we our heart receptive of the word. That indeed God has anointed servant to the poison this morning, that as he speak as an oracle of Almighty God. And we ask that the Holy Spirit will give us unction, listen, apply the word to all. Make welcome, Minister Poison.
And let us praise the name of the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Can we praise him another time?
Hallelujah.
Lift up the name of Jesus. Magnify the name of the Lord. Can we call him by his name? Call him by his name. Give him the highest praise. Give him the highest praise. Let everything that hath breath, amen, praise the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. Greetings and salutation. Let me take time out to greet the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Blessed Holy Spirit. Reverend Coleman, Minister Coleman, amen, my big lump of sugar. Pastor Poison, amen, rest of evangelists, deacons, deaconess, just about the entire household of faith. Amen. Let me greet my daughter also this morning. Amen. In full green. Praise the name of the Lord. Amen. I don't know if she's sending a signal, but nevertheless, praise the name of the Lord. It's good to be in another worship session. Amen. God has been extremely good to us. Amen. He put us to bed last night, and of course, he woke us up this morning, and he has clothed us in our right mind. Amen. We could have gone to our bed last night and didn't live to see this day, because this day was promised to no man. So today we are here because of an extension of God's grace and God's mercy. Hear, O Lord, the sound of my voice. Hear, O Lord, and have mercy. My soul is longing for the glory of Him. Hear, O Lord, and answer me. Why do I no longer feel the have peace to stay. Oh, take me where someone will care. So fear will go away. Hear, O Lord, the sound of my voice. Hear, O Lord, and have mercy. My soul is longing for the glory of faith. Hear, O Lord, and answer me. Why do I no longer feel like I have peace to stay? Oh, take me where someone will care. The fear will go away. Hear, O Lord, the sound of my voice. Hear, O Lord, and have mercy. My soul is longing for the glory of fame. Hear, O Lord, and answer me. Let us praise the name of the Lord. Praise the name of the Lord. Praise the name of Jesus. Hallelujah. Blessed be the name of the Lord. You have your Bible with you. You can turn with me to the book of Matthew, chapter 7, from verses 24 through to the end. Therefore, whosoever heareth this saying of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the flood came, and the wind blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. Everyone that heareth these saying of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. The rain descended, and the flood came, and the wind blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Jesus had ended these saying, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as pride. Herein in a portion of the reading of God's own word, we say thanks.
Lord of Lords,
God.
we adore you this morning.
Today I want to speak to us on the topic,
Be lifted up on our praises this morning.
build
May
on
you arise and let our enemies
the
be
rock.
scattered this morning.
But
May
before
you
going
take
into
the
that, I'm
rightful
going to ask
place
Sister
in
Carol
Zion
to do
this morning as the
once
glory
or
belongs
twice
only
build
to you.
on
This
the-
is your house, so come and dwell. May you enter each of us individual's temple, because you said our bodies are the temple of the living God. We pray this morning, God, that you will enter
The
us.
church of the living God.
Be free, Holy
And the
Spirit.
gates of hell shall never prevail if you build upon the solid rock.
Be free, Holy
Build on the
Spirit.
rock,
To move
build on the rock.
and move inside us. Oh, touch our hearts this morning. Mighty God, lift us up out of our doldrum. For those of us who are feeling down this morning,
Gates
oh
of
God, we will
hell
somebody
shall
revive
never,
them in the name of Jesus.
if you build
Lord,
on
we pray
the
that you
solid
will
rock.
this morning. We ask that you
Build
will
on
stay
the rock,
gladness for
oh,
more.
build on the solid rock.
Holy
We
Spirit,
are the
cause us to worship.
build on the rock.
Your name, mighty God, is the highest.
We are the church of the living God.
Your name stands above
And the gates of hell,
all thrones and dominions.
if you
All
build
power
on
and
the
position.
solid rock.
Your name stands above them
Build
all.
on the rock.
And we give you worship. Oh, can we worship the King of Kings this morning? And Christian Outreach Missionary Evangelism.
We are the church of the living God.
Can we shout with the voice
And the
of
gates of hell will never prevail if you build on the solid rock.
greatly to be praised?
I am under the rock. Lord, rock is higher than I. Jehovah, I'm on the
Magnify your name.
good.
Walk
I'm on the rock. Oh, I am under the rock.
Under the
Lord, rock is higher. Jehovah, I'm on the rock.
I
My Lord, I'm on the rock. I'm on the rock. Lord, rock is higher. Praise the Lord. Praise I'm on the rock. Let us praise the name of the Lord. Praise the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. Blessed be the name of Jesus. Praise God. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5 through to chapter 7, it tells us about Christ's sermon on the mount. He started his sermon with the Beatitude, and he concludes with a parable. And of course, we know what is a parable. A parable is a simple story told to illustrate a moral or spiritual truth that is told by Christ in the gospel, and I must add, without adding, the synoptic gospel, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John's gospel is not included in the synoptic gospel, and there are no parable in John's gospel. Now, this is what Jesus said, and I really like the two first words. Is here. He used the word therefore. And the word therefore is a subjunctive adverb, and it means as a result. It means because of that and for that reason. Followed by the word whosoever. And of course, we know that whosoever is an indefinite pronoun. And not even Google can tell us how much is whosoever, because it is indefinite. Up to the 31st of May of this year, the world population stands at 8.2 billion. Now, I am saying to us right now, Brother James, if the 8.2 billion heard the word of Almighty God and does what it says, the Bible is going to liken them unto a wise man that built his house upon a rock. So let us get into the meat of the matter. Therefore, whosoever hear this saying of mine. Now, the saying of mine here is essentially the same as the word of Jesus Christ. There is absolutely no difference. So, in this very short parable, Jesus made mention of two builders. Amen. One was wise and the other one was foolish. None of them were born wise. None of them was born foolish. But the decision that we made in life has a lot to happen to our outcome. We know that life is made up of choices. Amen? And the choice that we made, we will have to live with them. Sometimes we make some good ones. And of course, sometimes we made some bad ones. We usually take credit for the good ones, and we do have a little tendency of wanting to blame others for some of the bad ones. I think in all fairness, we should take credit for both good and bad. Now, Jesus wants to find out if, after a very lengthy sermon on the mount, he wanted to find out if the people were just hearers only and not doers. Because the problem that we are having in Christendom is not lack of hearing, but of lack of doing. We hear a lot, but we hardly do anything about it. So here we have these two builders. Both of them were given equal opportunity. Both of them could be wise or both of them could be foolish. But it has to do with the decision that was made. So, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. The rain descended, and the house stood firm. The flood came, and the house stood firm. The wind blew, beat upon that house, and it fell not. And the reason is given. For it was founded upon a rock. It was founded upon Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Because what? It has a very good foundation. Now, I really don't know much about building. Reverend Coleman knows much than I do. But the little that I know is that strength of any building lies within the foundation and not necessarily how the building looks. How the building looks has nothing to do with the strength of building. There are many buildings that are going up. Fancy man, beautiful, but it does not have a proper foundation. And Jesus Christ is our foundation. And any life that is being built on the teaching and on the principle of Jesus Christ will never, never, never crumble. The wind will beat us, yes. We will get lashing from the wind. Flood will come. Rain will fall. Might have a little leak here and there. But we are going to be secure because we are on a good foundation. The foundation is very, very good. Verse 26. And every man that heareth these saying of mine, and doeth them not, I will liken him unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. Now, you and I know that it doesn't really take much to dig out a foundation in a sand. Reverend, it not take not much to dig out a foundation in a sand. Brethren, we can use the bare hand, dig out a 3 foot, 3 feet location, foundation in the sand. Now, compare that to dig out a foundation in a rock. We need some special tools. We need spiritual vigor and vitality. We need perseverance. We need push. So, for some reason or the other, this man chose to go the easy route. Like many of us. We are shaken for that. Like many of us, we have chosen the easy way out. This is what this man did. And the only thing both of them had in common is that they were builders. But what had separated them? One was wise, one was foolish. So, the foolish man's house was up and ready. But test is coming. And the test is very clear. Notice that the things that happened to the wise man's house are the same thing happened to the man's house. So nobody can say, well, more things happened to him. Why some more things happened to him? And for the first man, it was a few. Same test. And the rain descended, and the flood came. And the wind blew and beat upon that house. And what happened to it? The house fell, and not only fell, Deaconess, it was no ordinary fall. The house didn't just fall down and lay upon its side. The house mashed up. It was totally destroyed. Great was the fall of it. And why did that happen? Foundation. It had no form of foundation. So it fell, and great was the fall of it. And let me repeat myself. Any one of us as Christians, as child of God, any one of us who are building, and we are not building on the sure foundation, surely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that house will be coming down. It will be coming down. Because the foundation is not good, and the type of material that were being used to build on the house was inferior material. Now I want to say to us while we are building, let us build on the rock. Let us build on Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Chapter 3, 1 Corinthians 3, from verse 10 and to 15. According to the grace of God which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth. Paul was writing to the church in Corinth, a church which he actually started on his second missionary journey. And this took place around about 50 to 52 AD. And having completed that church, he spent 18 months with the brethren in Corinth. Corinth was not really such of a nice place. Corinth was a place where sin flourishes. And it reached the stage where it started to creep over into the churches. Paul, as we know, and not just Paul alone, all of us, we were saved by God's grace. Amen. We were kept by grace, and without the grace of God, none of us will be able to make it into God's kingdom. We are now living in the dispensation of grace. And this dispensation was started at Pentecost along with the church. And when the church would have taken its flight out of here, this dispensation will come to an end. What is left? Because let me tell you something, brother and sister. When the church left, life will continue, but not as usual. And we wouldn't want to be around that time. Because the church gone, it means that light is gone and the salt is gone. What left will be totally insipid. So what Paul is saying now, according to the grace of God, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation and another build thereof.